Lee's dog is snoring underneath the desk. I've got a cat that just climbed up on the back of my chair. I can't see the cat there. Can you see it? Yeah. Get it back in there. There. That's Washi.
I might start sneezing. I'm allergic to pictures of cats.
Yeah.
Could be a problem.
I don't like cats either, so.
Oh, I love cats. I'm just allergic.
And
I've never met a nice cat.
I've got a notification that tells me that we have appeared on YouTube Live, so yay. The official beginning of the program from the Bonus Room studio above the garage on the north side of Cary. This is the Triangle Talk Show. And episode 4, it's going to be a bull session, May 3rd, 2018. Lee, in honor of the topic that you suggested, one of many we will do tonight, the title of the program is Flat as a Pancake. And Lee is making his triumphant return to the program. Lee Kal-El, whoops, wrong button. I don't know how to run the podcast machine yet. Lee Kal-El Superman Clark Kent from the Rockin' the Carolinas podcast. My wife is out in the hallway. Apparently she wants my attention. Oh, no, she's trying to tell me there's a cat on the back of my chair, which, of course, I know that there's a cat on the back of the chair. She climbed up there. All right. So welcome back, Lee, your triumphant return. And then a new co-host. Okay, there we go. Regis Jack.
That is me.
A
yes,
phony
Regis
name
Jack.
if I ever heard one.
It is a name given to me by God herself. So.
Okay. And your podcast is Distracted Euphoria?
Exactly. That's the name I've landed on. That's not what it used to be, but that's what it is now.
We will have you explain that in a moment. In fact, we'll have you explain that now. What the heck is that?
So I when I started the whole podcast thing, well, we got to be careful of using your name out there because I work in corporate America and they don't like your name. So I always had to come up with another name. So that's why I've used this one for a long time. But my first podcast that I did was actually called, it's the same show, I just changed the name. It was called Satan's Jello Chunks. Now, Satan's Jello Chunks is an anagram of my actual birth name.
Okay.
And I worked days to find anagrams that worked for that. And I did that for about maybe 6 months or so, for that didn't work. And then I changed it to the Regis Jack Experience because, well, I'm Regis Jack. It's all about my experience of everything. But then eventually I realized that Regis Jack really isn't a brand. It's just a name. So I needed a brand. And so I kept thinking of a brand. And I thought, the Distracted Philosopher. 'Cause that's what I'm. I'm distracted. I'm always all over the place. And I like to talk about things. And so then I thought, well, then how can I get the podcast to fit that? And some on the way, Distracted Euphoria came up. And it was like, well, it's distracted. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those moments of euphoria. And they usually occur when you're not paying attention. So I do a lot of meditation, Tai Chi, martial arts kind of thing. And so we do meditation. And so sometimes you do meditation. It's like, hey, for a moment there, everything was clear. It was beautiful. That's Distracted Euphoria. You didn't know what happened. And then there it was.
All right. I got your website up for the folks that are watching on the YouTube, which, by the way, I still don't recommend. I want everybody to listen to this as an audio podcast. Don't watch the video just because there's 5 cameras involved here.
What if people want to see our pretty faces?
Okay.
I was going to say, that's why I do an audio-only podcast. Nobody wants to see my pretty face.
Okay, so I got some of your podcasts up here. Which one do you recommend I play?
Oh, man. That's a scary thought, because now I'm going to have to remember what they're about. I know accidental tequila cubes is just way off the mix, man. That one's just nuts.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good one.
But they all start out a little bit the same. So I have an intro by a gentleman by the name of Voltaire, Aurelio Voltaire, who does music and other goth stuff. So he does a really good intro for me.
Let's see what this sounds like.
Be warned, this will be offensive to some people, so now is your time to leave. Really, just turn it off and walk away. Just walk away. away.
Hey everybody, namaste, Mishka Harkate, sup. Hey, in this episode, I do not talk about cryptocurrency because John Oliver did that already. He just did that the other night, and it's because he read my mind, and that's what I was going to do, so... Anyway, let's just do this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Standard intro. Daylight saving time, not savings. I did not say savings. I went to sleep, and then I woke up. Right? All my clocks adjust automatically. Time could be changing every day, and I would not notice. You know, what if they are changing it every day? Maybe it's Tuesday.
I'm getting the
Maybe
idea.
it's July. Hell, it could
It's
be
a stream of
2021.
unconsciousness.
In the morning.
Oh,
everybody.
and audio
In the
production.
morning. Welcome to Distracted Euphoria, my documented descent into madness. I'm your host, Miss Cecil Blockchain. Yes, I've given myself yet
another name.
Identity. I am one man, multiple personalities, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. And sometimes why. So let's just get the show started. I don't have anything to say, so let me just, we'll just start this thing.
Oh, you done some production?
Yeah, I mean, I've used GarageBand is what I've used, and so it's kind of nice when you put a little music here and there, a little thing you kind of make here, these little stingers. It actually makes a big effect on people listening, because I find it hilarious. Somebody hear the beginning of the show and they hear that little zinger stuff at the front, and they're like, "Ooh, it sounds so professional," and I'm like,
Yeah,
I
fooled you.
It's not professional at all, but yeah, I always start the show pretty much the same. I always have a loud coughing fit before I do a quote. But the idea is that I like to take a section of the show right at the beginning, the next section, and kind of talk about something that's been on my mind or what affected me that week. And it could be a news story, it could be people, it could be something, and kind of dive into it. The way I do a podcast is probably a little different than most people. I write it and script it out, and then kind of follow the script and record it all within a 4 to 6 hour period. So that's my goal. The show has to be there. I mean, I may have a note from somewhere, I have a one line somewhere, but I have to do it kind of all in that one stream. So that's kind of how I do that. But and some are better than others. There's no doubt. I do have a link on my page at the top that's got like favorites. Oh, it's best of. It says best of, and those are actually some great ones. The best of me. The Sadness of Infinity is one that people said gave them a whole new respect for human beings. And I was like, oh, that's good. So, and usually on there, on every post is also kind of the script I started with. Because like I say, I think through it and I write it out. And then the show's a bit differently, but what I did initially will be down on every post is usually always written all the way down there. So.
Okay. So you actually put effort into this.
Yes, I do. I think that's kind of the thing is I've done it differently over the years, but now I've kind of got this method going of creating. But yeah, I used to, and there's also a part of the show where I just, you go through what's on my Twitter feed, what stories that I retweet that caught my attention, talk about current events, kind of like, everybody does. You have that little section as well. So it's just become a thing of sanity for me.
So, Lee, I don't remember if it was you or Bobby from the previous program. Well, there's been a program in between that I did by myself on local politics. But was it you that fully produced your program and Bobby that just threw it together, or vice versa?
Vice versa. Yeah, I just threw it together.
Okay, so
I've always done that.
Okay, so I didn't show your website or play any of your show on the last one.
Anything.
You wouldn't play anything.
No, I mean, well, you're going to hear about a 30-minute intro. Like, we've changed our intros so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've had 3 intros so far right now. We came together, it's just a group of us in a local Facebook fan group that came together and wanted to do a podcast about the hurricanes. I've already done podcasts before. I had my own hurricane podcast called The Cardiac Corner. I've done baseball, wrestling as well. I just came in as, just a guy that was going to help out. Then turned into, I was on the show all the time. And then it just turned into something that's going to be bigger than I think we've expected from the get-go. We hadn't done a show in probably like 2 months.
Well, 2 months is not a horribly long hiatus.
No, not too much, but it's going to be about another 2 months before we do a show, honestly.
I do have to play a little bit of it.
Yeah, play a little bit. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's all right. I mean, it's
Blog
nothing.
Talk Radio.
So,
Okay, so he's rocking. He's rocking.
yeah.
Well, it is called Rockin' the Carolinas, so. Do you do the air guitar with that?
No.
Okay. Waiting.
Hello and welcome
There
to
we go.
another edition of
Yeah,
Rockin' the Carolinas. As always, I'm your
Grace.
host, Lee Clark. Joining me tonight,
You don't say
my
Kal-El.
good old buddy.
No,
Kyle,
I don't.
My usual compadre here during the show. Zach, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to be back. It's been a while since doing one of these shows. It's good to finally get back on the radio and talk some hockey.
Exactly, yeah. You know, it's been a while since we've done a show. I think our last show was our live show that we did on Facebook Live as well. I think
Okay, I think we got an idea.
Yeah. It's a general talk show about hockey. You know, it's slow to get into, but it pops about 15 minutes in.
Yeah. That's
Well,
like,
usually when you get people talking about sports together, they as they start, they just really get into it, and that's when it gets good usually.
Yeah.
well, it's like the show that you and Javier and Bobby and I did. It starts a little slow, but then we get excited about stuff. So you were telling me I'm not much of a sports guy at all. Although the arena where the Hurricanes play is, I could throw a rock and almost hit it. It's about 4 miles away. I can throw a rock 4 miles, no problem.
That's impressive.
Yeah, you tell me that the hockey season is in its playoffs.
Yeah, we're in the second round of the playoffs right now. Of course, the Hurricanes didn't make it. They hadn't made it in 9 years, so no surprise there.
And 9 years
But
ago, they won the Stanley Cup.
No.
10 years ago. Oh, they did. They won.
11.
They did win the Stanley
now
Cup, right?
12. Yes, they did in 06.
Oh, so they made the playoffs since then.
Yeah, they made it in 09. They won the cup in 06. They finished. They lost in the finals in 02. They won the cup in 06. Lost in the Eastern Conference Finals in 09, and we hadn't made the playoffs since.
So you're
But
you're a Cubs fan, basically.
No.
Well, the Cubs,
I'm wearing Red Sox.
well, the Red Sox.
Yeah, so that would be a more appropriate. But at least they won in 04.
Yeah. Cubs did a World Series or something. So, yay.
Yeah, eventually. They finally got one. They paid off MLB to do it, but that's another story.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you got the Red Sox shirt on. So you do some baseball.
Yeah, I used to do a podcast called The K Factor. We did it for about 2 years, and we took a long hiatus. And I just never brought it back. I just got wrapped up in too much work. But I'm thinking about when we relaunch Rockin' the Carolinas here in the fall, in about 2 months, that I'm going to bring the show back and have it as part of our rotation of mini sports shows to come with the Rockin' the Carolinas.
Sports ought to be pretty good. Get a good audience. It's popular stuff. What else do you do? Are you a NASCAR fan?
No. I used to be a NASCAR fan when I was growing up. I really loved Dale Earnhardt. Then once he died, I just kind of didn't care.
Yeah.
I still followed it. I really liked Carl Edwards, but after he retired a couple years ago, I just don't care anymore about NASCAR.
I was the same way. I was a huge NASCAR fan for a long time back in those times.
Yeah,
And you do it. Yeah. But then as people retire and you start losing those, and it is. I don't think it's the same any at all as it used to be.
Yeah. And Regis, you are in Charlotte.
Yeah, I am right on the north edge of Charlotte.
You're
I'm
a charlatan.
Yes, unfortunately.
And so you are a stone's throw from that great big NASCAR.
Oh yeah,
thing.
yes. Yeah, NASCAR Hall of Fame's down there. There's a big track right over there in Concord, just around the corner. Yeah, it's all right around here.
I've actually seen 2 NASCAR races. I think the the Coca-Cola 500s or something. They were huge and long, and I left early.
Yes, that's about the longest race you could go for.
Yeah. And my primary interest was listening on my scanner to hear all the radio stuff because I've got that radio thing going.
Yeah, that's where all the good talk's going on. Find out what's really happening. And what's worse is some of them actually talk about things they shouldn't talk about on the radio and get them caught. So,
all right, which reminds me, last time we were all together, we were determining whether or not we could say bad words on the show, and listening to Siri and something from Mashable. And so the next day I was out for a walk with my wife, and she's got an iPhone with the Siri on it. And we asked Siri the magic question, Siri, define the word mother. And Siri had changed. Wasn't swearing anymore. Back the day before, people were checking out Siri and saying, define mother. And definition number 2 was a bad word. And Regis, okay, Lee is back. Lee disappeared for a minute. You're back. Regis, you were asking if we can say bad words here, and the answer is we can. And it's all because of Siri, because initially Siri defined mother. Definition number 2, not definition number 1, but definition number 2 as motherfucker. And I've broken the ice, so feel free.
Oh, well, there you go. Actually, I've never really trusted Siri anyway. I've always found that Google gives me better answers than Siri does. But it's not surprising. I actually had an incident where I upgraded to Windows 10. One of the upgrades to Windows 10, a new patch came in.
Yeah.
And when it did this big install, it opened up a web browser with a lot of tabs, like 4 tabs or so. So in case you had troubles, you could look at it. And one of them actually said, where the fuck is Bootstrap. Whatever. And I was like, that's a great tab to bring up. That's phenomenal.
I've done a lot of upgrading. I haven't seen that somebody at Microsoft lost their job.
Yeah, I'm thinking they just do a search for that particular file, and then they just bring up whatever search criteria was there. Yeah. It's the same thing with Siri, the definition. I mean, come on, really? That's going to be the second definition?
Well, they got it. They got it from the Oxford English Dictionary, which
that's fine. That's interesting.
Yeah. Let me go. I'll do a little typing here. Okay, Oxford English Dictionary, and it wants me to sign in and just tell me a word. I'm not a subscriber. There's
the word Galahad right there. Galahad right on the screen. Word of the day.
Okay.
1854.
The word of the day is not mother. You
often wonder, how does somebody find out that that's what Siri's going to say? Because that's kind of not the word you're going to ask a definition for.
Well, it was just before Mother's Day, I think. No, it's not. Mother's Day hasn't happened yet. I don't know what it was.
Do not underestimate the power of people that are really high. Apparently,
Okay. Well,
I guess. I don't know.
The dictionary wants me to do way too much work, so not going to do that.
It wants to track you in your every movement, much like Mr. Zuckerberg likes to do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Speaking of tracking, I'm as we launch this podcast that no one listens to yet, and I'm hopefully hanging on to that word yet, because it's going to happen sooner or later.
I've texted a few people to find you on YouTube right now, so hopefully you're going to get some viewers. I'm just saying.
Well, that'd be cool. That'll be cool. I added some analytics, some tracking to the podcast, and on the website there is now going to be there's going to be a survey, and I'll stick the link in a couple of different places. This thing's called Audience Survey, and it's because I've already done it. It's thanking me. I'll thank you for not letting me show what the survey looks like. Oh well. It was a long survey with like about 40 questions in it. So if you feel like it, you can ask to do the survey. I will ask you to do the survey. And I went and did that because it came along with the tracking from a company called PodTrack. Do you guys track your podcast listenership?
Yeah, I have my currently I have things on Lisbon right now, and so I that has some tracking of numbers and stuff. But I don't really. Yeah, it does, but I don't really pay a lot of attention. I just see that there is some activity, and I'm like, okay, so something's happening.
Somebody's watching.
Yeah, after 10 years, I'm telling you, my numbers are not high, but they're still there.
What, can you reveal what you get? A couple hundred?
No,
thousand, tens of thousands?
No. I have
hundreds of thousands.
I have not broken the 100 mark yet.
Oh, okay. So you're total pro.
Yeah, because the thing is that when I'm not talking about something that people are looking for. It's not they're like, oh, I want to look for a guy who's weird. They're not looking for that. I want to look for if they want to look for hockey, they're going to search for hockey. Hey, there you go. You're looking for sports, they'll find sports. You got a talk show, they're looking for a talk show. But for what I do, it's just you just got to get word of mouth out there, and it's not been my primary concern. So I've just kind of let it go. But if there was no one at all after all this time, I probably couldn't do this.
It is the kind of program that someone can get into just because you're fun to listen to.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I listen the shows that I listen to, and we're going to talk about them a little bit in a few minutes, maybe or maybe not. About half of what drives me to listen to them is not the topic that they're talking about. That's got to be in there somewhere, but it's just they are interesting people to listen to. Like one of my favorites these days is Make Me Smart with Kai Risdahl and Molly Wood. I've been following Molly Wood for a long time since she's been at CNET. And Kai Risdahl does, he's been doing the NPR Marketplace show for a long time. And in that, he was just a straight broadcaster. He was a looser broadcaster. Maybe he wasn't really totally uptight. Didn't have to stick up his butt too badly. But Molly Wood, who has always been a podcaster and not a broadcaster, loosened that guy up. And in the podcast that they do, he's just way more fun. So,
well, yeah, I've heard her before. She's really good. So
yeah. Although it was fun because she was booked to become the fill-in anchor on Marketplace. And although she had done podcasting for a long, long time, Marketplace is a pretty rigidly formatted program, and she was terrible for a couple of weeks. I mean, she better than I would ever be, but still, it was off. And then she got good again. And in the podcast, she talked about that. Yes, wasn't I terrible? Yes, you were, but now you're great. So just got to get your legs under you. Lee, your podcast listenership is in the millions?
No, I wish. No, I never really did any of my podcasts to get a lot of listens. Just mainly as a source of getting my thoughts out without going and doing a postal shooting or something.
Yes, that's a good reason right there. That's perfect.
Podcast. Shoot up a crowd. Become a mass murderer. Podcast. Mass murder. Yeah, I can see how that could be, a coin flip for most people.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough to choose between. But no, the Cardiac Corner and the K Factor probably got my most listens to. I was probably averaging around. Well, it differed. I would say if I had to go by month, because we did quite a few shows a month, I would say I was averaging around 150 to 200 listens a month. With our new show, Rocking the Carolinas, we're averaging about 20 a month. We're just getting out there. We're just starting, but we're about to go to bigger things. So audience listenership is not a big thing for me. It's just that me and everybody that's doing it is having fun and just getting our thoughts out.
Okay. Then this program, of course, has no listenership at all. It's in the, count them on two hands.
You're in the negative right now, actually. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And there actually bits are flowing into me. They're not going back out yet. The previous show that I did, the ham radio show, was mostly a YouTube thing. And then I added Libsyn for audio. And a typical show would be between 1,000 and 3,000 YouTube views and 1,000 to 2,000 podcast Libsyn listens. You can't tell how long somebody listens on a download because you're no longer in control of anything they're doing. But you can tell how long people watch on YouTube. And it would start and they've got really good analytics on there. So you'd look at a chart, and the chart would start, way up here at 100%, and then within about a second and a half, it would drop down to 25%, kind of dither there for the rest of the show. So if a show that had, say, 3,000 people that said it watched, maybe 500 or 600 actually watched the whole thing. So
once they saw your face, they were like, "Oh, I don't want to watch this."
No.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I was, in the high 300s for episodes. Nobody should have been coming upon this thing and not knowing what it was. So don't know why they all start and drop off so fast. But I'm told that that's pretty much routine. So it's going to be a while before this PodTrack thing kicks in and lets me know what the downloads are. But one of the people in our podcast meetup group, and you guys are both in the meetup group, was asking, is there any way to get demographic data from podcast listens? And the answer is no. What goes out is an MP3 file with what they call an RSS, and now I'm getting over my head, an RSS URL web listing, and so somebody taps on that, and the only information that comes back for anybody to track is the web address that you're coming from. And I think they can glean from that, or they get data on what kind of device you're on. Are you on a phone? Are you on a computer? And if you're on a phone, or what browser it is or what app is being used. So they can get data like that coming back, but they can't tell if you're male or female or young or old.
Yeah. No, and they can pull back the IP addresses of where these things are coming from as well. That's
IP
also
address,
available.
that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, they can pull that kind of stuff back, and that kind of gives you some demographics. But once you just click on the RSS feed, there's not a lot there. It's usually you're subscribing to the player or something that's gathering information about you. Like you logged in with Facebook, so now they know more about you. That's kind of what they really want.
And now Google, if they're in the middle of this, of course they know how often you brush your toenails. So,
hey, when I hopped in my car at midnight the other night, and it said Taco Bell's just 4 minutes away, and I'm like, damn, it knows me.
Only because you end up there a lot.
At that time, that's the key.
Yeah.
It's the time I got in the car that it knew where it was.
Yeah. So speaking of how people consume their podcasts, Lee, what do you listen to podcasts on? You get to listen to podcasts a lot at your real job.
Yeah, I get about 8 hours of walking behind a machine to listen to podcasts. I use the Apple Podcasts. I have an iPhone, so I use Apple Podcasts to listen to. Sometimes I go to YouTube because sometimes Apple doesn't have all the podcasts without digging through a big library of anything. I can just go to YouTube and type in that podcast with the guests, and I can find maybe one or two episodes with the guests. And I can click on that one and just put it back in my pocket and listen to the whole podcast. So,
okay, so you're in the Apple ecosystem.
Apple Podcast is my mainstream. Yep, Apple.
All right, and Regis, what do you use? What's your technology?
I'm iOS as well, but I use Overcast is what I've been using for podcasts, and I probably have multiple dozens of podcasts which I don't get a lot of time to listen to because for me it's difficult. I can't seem to work and listen to podcasts at the same time. My brain can't do two things at once. It's not that smart.
Yeah, I'll try to have a podcast going and then sit down at the computer to balance books or do checking account or anything, and I'll discover that I have totally stopped listening to whatever the podcast is talking about. It's just background noise. So, and I switched to playing music. So I can't I can't do that. I was going to ask you guys what. I am a all-in Google person. This is a Nexus 6P, totally Google phone, and the app that I'm looking at is called Podcast Republic. I've never encountered anyone else who uses this, but somehow I found that, and steady there, microphone cam. And so there's a bunch of ham radio podcasts in here. But there's Marketplace Tech. And I've got a lot, but no, there's no way to listen to all these, all in any given day. I usually manage to get through 2 or maybe 3. I started with Twit. I've got a lot of Twit shows in here. If you guys know what Twit is.
I used to listen to that all the time. Yep. But the shows get so long that I'm like, yeah.
Yep. There's my show. I show up in podcast land. But the ones that I listen to most frequently, actually the first show of my morning is not technically a podcast. It's the Rachel Maddow show from MSNBC, but she releases it as a podcast with no commercials. At least not yet. They haven't figured out that they could monetize it yet. And then Marketplace, which is also not a podcast, a radio show, but they release it as a podcast. And then it gets down to shows that aren't daily. One of my favorites that I'll promote is Stay Tuned with Preet Bharara. Is a former U.S. District Attorney, U.S. Attorney, I guess, from the Southern District of New York. That's Manhattan. And he's the guy that Trump said, you can keep your job. Oh, never mind, you're fired. He is really smart and very calm. He never trained as a podcaster, but he does a really good job, and he gets big guests and asks good questions, and not overtly political, but you punch the right button and he'll tell you he's not really happy with having been fired by Donald Trump. So those are a few that I will reveal, and some of the Twitch shows. Regis, who do you listen to when you get a chance?
Actually, I always start my morning with NPR up first because it's just like 12 minutes of kind of what's happening in the news, but I spend a lot of my time. My favorite podcast is 99% Invisible with Roman Mars. And it's one of my favorite things. They talk about just things of the world that you may not really think about. Sometimes it's architecture or just the way we do things. And then I also listen to Planet Money and The Indicator, and I learn more about economy and money than I've ever known. And it's actually so interesting. I had no idea I was interested in that kind of stuff until doing that. So those are ones I listen to all the time. But I also love to listen to Welcome to Night Vale, Alice Isn't Dead. I like those kind of story podcasts. I like to listen to that kind of stuff. Right now we're getting into one called My Favorite Murder, which is it's more entertaining than I thought it would be. These women talking about the previous serial killers.
My favorite murder.
It's very entertaining.
So they are people that they didn't have to do the coin flip. They did them both. They did podcast and mass murder.
Exactly. There you go. They just didn't have to do the killing. They just talk about it.
What's on your playlist, Lee?
My playlist, definitely Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew.
Woohoo!
I grew up listening to those guys on Loveline.
Oh, yes.
And I keep it following through. I'm so glad that they're back together doing podcasts again. The Adam and Drew show is fantastic.
I think I'm going to go listen to that now.
Yeah, Adam Carolla's show from the get-go is fantastic as well. I also listen to a lot of wrestler podcasts. Chris Jericho's podcast is really cool. I really enjoy that. I listen to a lot of different things. Serial. I really enjoyed Serial stuff.
So that's like the number one podcast in the world, right?
Yeah, it was for a while, but they hadn't done anything. Now they're like focusing on S-Town and their other This American Life. It's the other one.
Yeah, which is also a radio show, not a podcast, but I guess you can get it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can get it as a podcast. Now they're like really, I guess they're taking everything that's a radio show and making it a podcast, basically.
And a little bit going the other way once in a while, but
yeah.
I guess one more occurred to me that isn't currently producing, but they'll start up again. There's one called Slow Burn, and their first series, it's from Slate Magazine, and their first series was, 10 or 15 episodes detailing Watergate, the real Watergate, not the everything else gate, Nixon thing, and pulling out a lot of people that were involved back then and bringing out a lot of details that we've all forgotten. You guys probably weren't even around, or just barely. I was in my early 20s.
I'm glad you think that about me. I look a lot younger than I actually am.
Nope, I wasn't around.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. And, especially today, with you can draw all the parallels that you want, and we'll see how many of them stay parallel, how many of them go off track, because we don't know what today's story is going to turn out to be. When you mentioned Adam Carolla, that reminded me of something I was going to ask you, Regis, at the beginning when I played your intro, and that is, did Adam Curry approve your ripping off of his podcast?
No. Adam is very, very adamant about saying all the stuff that he has is public domain for us to use. So we can say in the morning, we can do that. He likes that. That's kind of the subtle gist to the No Agenda podcast without actually listing it out.
Okay. Do you listen to No Agenda?
I used to listen to it a lot, but it's turned into like a 3.5 hour show.
It is long.
And so, so usually when I travel to see my parents, it's about a 12-hour journey. When I go to visit them once a year, I just listen to all No Agendas all the way back and forth and just kind of catch up on stuff. I really like it. It's just it's a lot. I don't have as much time to listen to all those, unfortunately.
Yep. Well, with real radio back in the day, they measured their listeners by quarter hour, figuring no one's going to be around for more than 15 minutes. And again, and with my YouTube thing, it starts out big at the beginning and then drops way off. Podcasting is probably the same. We just can't tell. Because this is going to end up being our show last time was 90 minutes, and we're going to hit an hour easy here, and maybe go a little beyond. And can people listen to that if we're interesting enough?
Oh yeah,
maybe not, but they'll bail or liberally fast forward. I recommend liberally fast forwarding.
Well, it's amazing when you think about the sheer amount of content people listen to. I mean, and the sheer amount of content available is just unbelievable now. So really, you're really just getting niche things. It's just people. I just happen to find this one, or I found somebody else who knew it, but they really don't find just random things anymore. You pretty much got to hear it from somebody who's heard it and passing the word.
Which reminds me to ask the audience to tell somebody, maybe somebody you don't like very much, about the Triangle Talk Show. Because it's a reflection on you. If you recommend a podcast, it's a reflection on you.
Well, that was a problem I had early on my shows. Is I used to be a lot more angry and a lot more sweary, and they were like, I can't really recommend your show to people because I don't want them to know that I listen to that.
There you go. Got to watch out. All right, so Adam Curry is a close personal friend of mine.
Woo!
Well, actually, we've swapped email 2 or 3 times.
I've loved Adam since his MTV days. So
yeah, well, he's a ham, and I'm a ham, ham radio type ham.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're all hams here on Podcast Land, but the radio thing, and so I invited him on my ham radio show, and he said, "Sure, love to," and then we never really made it connect. But he's one of the few that actually talks about his ham radio connection positively.
Yeah, he has.
Frequently.
Well, he believes that there's going to be a time when that's going to be the communication.
Yeah. Well, God save us all if that ever happens. But
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what else on the rundown here. I think it was you, Regis, that was mentioning you went to a comedy show.
Oh yeah, so I've been doing the podcast for, like I said, about 10 years now. I started in 2008, so I'm just finishing up the 10-year mark. And this place nearby had a open mic.
That, by the way, is a long time.
It is a long time. I mean, I'm 400 and some episodes. I mean, I've not done every week, but I've done pretty good. I usually average about 40 episodes a year instead of up to 52. So I mean, I get there. But yeah, it's just always creating. And so I wanted to see what this open mic comedy night is, because there's a lot of people do comedy. They go there and do stuff. And so I watched them and realized that I see him kind of being uncomfortable behind the mic and this kind of thing. And I'm like, man, I really look at my talking on the podcast as really speaking experience. Because like at work, I have to give presentations. I am great at giving presentations because I can talk on my feet now. I can say things. I can interact. And so I think the podcasting really, really helps with doing that. I mean, even if you are, like we talked earlier about, if you're scared in front of a crowd, that if you have true stage fright, that could be a problem. But once you've got comfortable with talking, you'll find out you'll comfortable in talking in front of people, and it's pretty easy. Though I did a completely silent thing because I'm weird. I wasn't ready to do a comedy act because I never thought of myself as funny. But the next time it comes up, I'm writing a nice comedy routine that I'm going to go up there, because I can see already I could do better than some of them. Some of them are really good, but some of them were just whoo.
Yeah, open mic comedy, that's, anybody can play. And
exactly.
You don't know if you're going to be funny until you put it out there before an audience. One of the folks that will be on this show in hopefully the very near future, actually a professional comedian, and will be a woman. It's not going to be an all sausage fest show.
I'm a fan of both of those things.
And that's not her full-time job, but she has been on the road, on the circuit, and done it. So we'll talk about some of that.
Yeah, that's good, tough stuff right there. That's a tough job.
Yeah, she was never the headliner, I don't think, but typically a comedy show has 3 acts, 3 comedians, and a host, and she was at least the opener. I don't know if she ever made it to the number 2 slot. So
yeah,
we'll see. I can't be funny on purpose. I can be funny accidentally, but can't be funny on purpose.
I think a lot of us fall into that category. You can be funny in the situation. Somebody says something, you can add to it, make it funny. But if they ask you to stand up and be funny, you're like, no.
Yeah, I know 2 jokes, and I can't get all the way through them and remember them. Yeah, but one of them is two Adams were walking down the street, and one of them tripped and landed real hard, and the first one, still standing, said, "Are you okay?" And the one that fell said, "I think I lost an electron." And the first one says, "Are you sure?" And the one on the ground says, "I'm positive."
Science joke.
Got to be an engineer.
Not only a joke, but a limited audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, out there in podcast land, they're going nuts. I can tell. The pod track is sending me feedback already. Can you get funny, Lee? Do you have to?
Yes, but no.
Yeah.
Not on the show.
I'm telling you, it has to be. You get a bunch of guys talking sport, they get funny. There is no doubt about it.
I'll tell you, there's nothing funnier than a hockey locker room. I've been in many hockey locker rooms, and it's the funniest place on earth. It's also the weirdest place on earth. But yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot of things I can say and tell, and jokes I can tell, but I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit closer to the PG here.
Okay. Well, we decided we could say bad words.
Well, I know, but a lot of them can be misconstrued as like I hate people, and then I don't like this person, I don't like all this, and then people can complain. And
yeah. I know. I've often said that it's kind of good not to be famous in a podcast or anything like that, because if you do say something like that and everybody knows you, then you're just going to get crucified on the internet. So you're like, I don't want people to know that I said stuff.
I said this joke that's meant to be a joke, no offense to anybody, and everybody gets their pennies in the wad.
Oh, these days especially.
These days, exactly. Yeah, you got to watch what you say.
The internet outrage machine in full force. All right, next on the rundown, and this is one of yours, Lee. I'll put the picture up here for those that are watching pictures. Flat Earth. Why did you want to talk about Flat Earth?
Oh man, because I think it's gaining steam. Like you've had a lot of celebrities lately come out. Some NBA players come out saying they believe the Earth is flat and everything. And I just listened to this really cool podcast. Like, I'm not a flat earther by no means. I think anybody that believes Earth is flat is a little not there, or something. I don't. There's no way you can prove to me that the Earth is flat. But it was a great podcast on Talk is Jericho. Chris Jericho, a WWE wrestler that I listened to as well, had a guy, David Weiss, I believe, talk about it. And he did like a lot of scientific stuff into it. He actually said that he wasn't a flat earther, but he was given evidence that the earth is flat. But he didn't believe it, which made it kind of comical in the sense of, why are you going to promote something that you don't believe? But he did a lot of fun. Yeah, he did a lot of scientific stuff that kind of made you go like, huh. But it was all it all can't boil down to nonsense that, and everybody comes to it's not the earth, it's just a giant Arctic wall of ice that doesn't melt, apparently, doesn't do anything, that you can't ever get close to. And it's just, I think it's rising up a lot, and it's kind of comical to me that people actually believe that the earth is flat.
Yeah, I'm hunting for a picture that's why I'm not looking at the camera. I'm hunting for a picture that's way back in my
there's some really feed. It's interesting you bring that up, because it is, when you see some celebrities, like you said, you see some sports figures and they start talking about it, and you're like, are you guys trolling us, or are you serious? But there's so much more talk about it now, and it makes you wonder. You're like, are there people that actually truly believe it? I know that, you look at a lot of these sci-fi or fantasy worlds, and, you might be on a planet or disc world, everything's on a disc. That's kind of what that's about. And you could use some science to say some of that's true, but eventually, you kind of run out by, we went outside and took a picture and we could see it.
Speaking of jokes, I tossed one into the rundown based on flat Earth, and that is that, the Earth is obviously not flat, because if it was, cats would have pushed everything off the edge a long time ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is a picture of a guy, because there was a flat Earth convention here in Cary.
I thought I saw that
a while ago.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And if I ever get back far enough.
Go.
I know, right? I would have went just to laugh. Just have a great day of laughing.
It was just down the block from where I live. And I go to a little shopping center that's got a Subway in it. And I get lunch at that Subway a couple days a week. And the weekend, or the week that they were having that conference, some guys from the conference, which was at a hotel that was about across the street, came over to the little shopping center, and they started, I won't say accosting people at the restaurants and the Subway that I was in, but they approached us and wanted to talk about it. And little did this poor guy know that he was about to run into a podcaster, semi-professional broadcaster who could hold his own. He had, if I ever find this picture, I don't know that I'm ever going to find it. He had his phone up, and he was streaming live to someplace. I'd like to think that he was streaming live to one of the conference rooms, and that what I was seeing was being seen by dozens, if not hundreds, of flat Earth people. But I don't know. I'm trying to multitask and not doing very well, but I will show you these pictures of a volcano in Hawaii that I saw.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
If the Earth wasn't flat, you wouldn't have those.
Yep. So I have technical enough background in a couple of areas that I could ask some questions that those guys couldn't answer. Now, somebody out there probably could, but I've done some searching for my technical question that I'll explain in a moment, and haven't found on any of their websites anybody who could answer it. I found lots of people who could try, but they obviously didn't know what they were talking about. And that is something that we've all experienced, listening to an FM radio station as we drive away. So you're listening to an FM station, here in the Triangle area, WRAL, and you drive away and it fades out. Why does it fade out? If the Earth was flat, if you were to go in an airplane and listen to it, you would hear it for hundreds of miles. But if you drive on the surface of the Earth, it disappears in about 60 or 70 miles. So why does that happen?
If
the Earth
is really good.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it depend on the power of the motor and everything, and the tower and how tall it was that it could reach over the? But even if it was flat, there's still going to be undulations.
The range that's available is based on the height of the tower and the amount of power that they're running. But around here, we've got a lot of 100,000 watt. Here's another one that can get a little hard to explain, but they did explain it. I went to the eclipse last summer. And this camera I was looking at, shooting with a little ND filter, heavy duty ND filter. This is the group of folks that I was around. I don't have pictures of the eclipse because I shot it all video. But they've explained that there's a like a negative moon. You can't see it, but when there's an eclipse, it blocks the moon. So that's how eclipses, or it blocks the sun. That's how eclipses happen. Come on, guy, because this is an interesting looking guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, if the Earth was flat, I mean, if you've ever flown and you've gone around the Earth, or you've gone far enough, you would have, the plane would have had to dove over the edge or something. And how do you get back from? How can you fly around the planet? How can you travel around the planet if it was flat? I don't get that.
Yeah, and they have their answers for that. They have technical answers for almost everything, but I haven't found anybody that could give a cogent response, including the internet lookups to this idea of radio stations.
I'll try and become a flat earther. I should do that. That'll be a good thing for me. That could be my next thing.
I think so.
I will try to prove that the Earth is flat. Yeah. I'll put that down here on my notes right away. Right?
It's gaining momentum, man. You get head front the whole thing.
Yeah.
And celebrities are coming out. What was it basketball player Kyrie Irving came out and said that? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I believe the Earth is flat. Don't believe the teachers telling you stuff. Yeah. What? No.
This gravity thing, it's all a farce.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no such thing as gravity.
Apparently, I met this guy a lot longer ago than I'm remembering. One of their theories
back in 1922.
One of the things is that the Earth is a disk, and I was looking at the site that you had linked to, Lee. The Earth is a disk, and basically Antarctica is the perimeter of the disk, and back when
ice wall.
Yeah, back when this stuff was being formed, that was not an easy place to get to. It's still not an easy place to get to, but people have certainly been there. But you can take an
expedition.
Yeah. And we know that there's no ice wall down there. But, of course, everybody who's been there and knows that is lying and part of the cover-up.
Yeah, that's what I say. That when you actually go down there, you don't actually go to, like, the South or North Pole. Like, they just take you to a place with a stick in the ground, and then you can't go any further. If you go any further, you're going to get shot. And if you do make it to the edge of the wall, there's armed guards all the way, and you're not going to make it back to tell anybody, basically.
I mean, you just have to look at the current administration and go, can the government keep a secret and actually have something hidden from us like that? I don't think so. They can't do anything. No government. I'm not specifically talking about any particular. I'm not talking about. I'm kind of one of the few people that don't talk. I don't like to talk bad about Trump or about anybody. Doesn't mean I agree with him, but I think the whole idea is talking bad doesn't help anybody, right? That doesn't help anything. Let's at least talk civilized about things. But yeah, you look what happens in the government. They can't keep anything. These guys can't keep anything a secret. So yeah, I don't see how they can keep something like that.
Yeah, so I think for me the interesting thing beyond just seeing how they try to explain things, and any technological argument, you can snow just about anybody unless they're an expert in that one area. Unfortunately, I've got that radio expertise that the guys I was talking to couldn't explain because they didn't have that expertise, but they knew people that could. The thing that intrigues me is that there are people that believe it and honestly believe it. Now, I believe within the flat Earth thing, still not finding it, but there's Krispy Kreme, and there's a cat.
I was gonna say I watched Krispy Kreme make those donuts many a times.
And for those of you that live in the Raleigh area, and here's my house at Halloween.
Ooh, direct. Yeah, nice.
Yep. And Lee has disappeared again. He'll be back.
I think we've lost him. He's a loose cannon, so
He'll
LC.
Yeah, I'll be back. I'm here.
What?
I accidentally hit the button on the mouse pad and it knocked my video off.
Okay, I'm afraid I've gone past my buddy. So I talked to that guy for a while, and then he left, and then a guy sitting at a table nearby says, "Was he bothering you?" And I said, "Well, no, I was having a good time talking to him. So no, he didn't bother me." And then that guy was also a flat Earth guy, and so we continued the conversation. And he was the one out.
Yeah. Maybe we need to just go up to people. I don't have fancy cameras, so we just need to go up to people and just get a little closer with that finger and just say, "Listen."
Careful which finger that is. I really want to show the picture of this guy because he was a little weird. Well, I've taken way too many pictures apparently, and now I'm way back in history.
He's back in his pictures with Abraham Lincoln when they were out there on the campaign trail.
Yeah,
that's when Abraham Lincoln was a vampire hunter. You know that, right?
I've seen. I understand there's such a movie.
There's a movie, but there's a book. The book is so much better. And I know when you say, really, the book of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but what they did for the book was took actual diary entries and entries of what Abraham Lincoln really did and then mix in the vampire stuff. So it actually seems a lot more realistic. You're like, am I reading a historical story or am I reading a fictional story? It was really good that way.
Okay, Lee hung up entirely now, but if he dials back in, I do have way too many pictures.
I don't take near as many as I used to, and they're always of weird things.
Yeah, I'm real sure I either missed it or somehow it disappeared. But I mean, it's just a guy holding up a phone in my face. But
it's nice to be able to have that. We all want to be in that situation where somebody comes to something crazy, and we can actually say something that makes them go, "Oh," that stumps them.
Yep.
That's our dream. It's everyone's dream. Yeah, he said Skype kicked him out.
Yeah, trying to see if he's trying to call back in or what the deal is, because he should be able to just get right back in.
Technology is wonderful.
Without doing anything. If anybody's wondering what this little this little blue box is here, there he is. This little blue box. This is a bandwidth meter that I've got. It's very cool.
So you can see that you've got stuff going on.
Yeah, we're sitting in the 3 to 4 megabits per second range. I'm sending out 4 megabits and getting back from you guys about 2.5. That's pretty good video.
The back of your head looks really nice. You should keep this angle. It's
yeah. I'll stay with this for a while.
It's unique, right? People are like, "What is going on here? Why are we just seeing the back of somebody's head?"
Well, they're looking at this monitor with you guys in it. That's my over-the-shoulder shot.
I know. I'm looking. I'm like, "Hey, look! It really is." It's. Hey, can we do? I got to do the other. I got to do the other hand. Can we do 5? Yeah, there we go.
No, okay.
No, Lee, you're supposed to.
I don't know.
Get your hand over here.
It's actually difficult. You gotta think about it differently. Like, what's going? What? Now, if I could just reach over and grab him, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, that way. Yeah, there we go.
These guys are having fun with television.
Exactly.
For the audio audience, this is the most entertaining part of the show. What the hell are they talking about? This is the picture from the website that Lee pointed me to. That this is the flat Earth with the Antarctica around the edge.
That's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah, it's the ice wall. You can't go near that; you'll get shot.
And They must
That's
have
what they say.
It must be like a full employment project for flat Earth people, because that's a lot of territory that they.
We can't even guard the border of our country, let alone the whole world.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to do that?
All right.
Well, that's why we can't defend the border, because they're all out on that ice thing. That's why.
That is it.
Yeah, they're
That's the
all
problem.
fine.
All right, moving on. Something serious. Lee brought up a serious topic.
Dun dun dun.
North Korea and South Korea
Oh, yeah.
making peace.
Yeah, I think that's China going, listen, we're tired of you guys doing this. We need to
You're wasting money.
need to do something. Yeah, there's
What's your thought, Lee?
I think it's interesting. You know, the South Korean president did kind of put Trump's
Everybody hold still until Lee unfreezes.
name out there. Yeah. Hold still. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
You're
okay.
back. You're back.
It's interesting because the South Korean president
Moon, I think.
put out, Moon said that Trump had a lot to do with it. Getting actual Kim Jong-un to sit down, and which is interesting because I hadn't really found that in other articles. There's one article I read.
Well, that's because it's the liberal media. They're not going to give him credit for
normal
it.
reliable source, but
Yeah, it
It
is
was
strange
interesting.
because
But
Trump
they
hasn't
did-
said a lot. He's just threatened more than anything, so they haven't really done anything. So,
well, sometimes it may take crazy to fight crazy.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah, it's going to be real hard for the mainstream media to give Trump credit if something good happens there. And it almost might have been unintended or just blundering into it. But, there was the only Nixon can go to China thing. I think this was before your time, guys. Well,
Yeah,
so, Nixon was, not an well, he was probably more of an internationalist than people give him credit for. But, he was, staunchly anti-communist, but yet he got China to open up quite a bit. And, something that you'd expect a Democratic president to have tried to do, but none of them ever succeeded in doing it.
Yeah. Some will say that it's because now North Korea does have a nuclear capability and they've built it, that was their goal.
Well, they demolished it too.
Well, in theory,
they
they're
blew it up. In theory, they kind of blew it up accidentally.
well.
That's what you kind of have to look for.
Yeah, that story came out, and now it's people are pulling back from that.
Yeah.
It was.
But I still believe China's the one behind all this, because China's just like, listen, you're right next to our borders. We don't want to get caught in anything. We're trying to do this big thing. U.S. is trying to put sanctions on China. China's like, listen, we got to straighten this thing out. So let's just get you to settle down, and maybe we can create a balance. Maybe they're just trying to, make their forces just a little better.
Yeah, it's one of those things that will be interesting to see how it plays out and how much credit Trump is taking all the credit right now, but how much credit he can really get in the end. With our 24-hour news cycle, we have an endless speculation machine, and every once in a while something actually happens that concludes something. But
it's no longer a news cycle; it's a 24-hour editorial cycle.
Well, yeah,
with 10-minute news cycle periodically.
Yeah.
So it is hard to tell that difference between people's just thoughts and opinions and actually what really happened. That's becoming a fine line, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's what this show is. It's just bloviating between.
I don't claim to know any facts. I accept the fact that the Earth is flat.
Yeah, which is true. Between news and opinion is analysis. Yeah, I heard something cool about shows that do a good job. Between news and opinion is analysis, and I'm not going to claim analysis, not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
So some things bubble up, things become news, they get started, and then we endlessly speculate on them, and then maybe or maybe not reach a satisfying conclusion. The Mueller investigation is one of those things. So little leaking out of that investigation. We're all waiting for the results. The Republicans, Fox News is all saying, well, there's nothing there because he hasn't said anything. He hasn't said anything because he's not done. And the Democrats are constantly coming up with speculation on what he might come up with and what he might be looking at, and reading every tea leaf that they can. And we don't know. At least Rachel Maddow says we don't know. I don't know, and you don't know, and we don't know. But let's enjoy the speculation, because what else have we got to do? We got an hour to fill.
It's true.
Every bit as important as North and South Korea is the fact that there's going to be, maybe another pro wrestler in politics.
Hey, Jesse, the Governor Ventura was awesome. Let's not get crazy.
He was.
Yes, I saw him wrestle too when I was younger too. So.
Yep. Well, in this case, it's not quite as big as a governor. It's going to be a county mayor, which is kind of an interesting concept. But in Knox County, where Knoxville is over in Tennessee, the county, the leader of the county is a mayor. Now, Knoxville has its own mayor, but the guy that runs the county is also called a mayor. And they're weird over there in Tennessee. But so there's the guy, the wrestler, I guess, and he's what did he win the Republican primary? Or
yes,
a primary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he won the Republican primary by 17 votes.
So
there's some actual votes that still haven't been counted, but he's officially declared the winner. They still got the next election again in November.
Yeah,
and that will confirm it if he actually does win or not in the
celebrity,
big thing. But
being a celebrity will always help, right? I mean, people know the face, they know the name, and they're like,
Kane's
listen.
been synonymous for 20 years with wrestling fans. I'm a big wrestling fan myself as well, and he's been synonymous for 20 plus years now. Undertaker's brother, and he's a big Ron Paul guy and Rand Paul guy. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen if he's only won by 17 officially so far. But there's a lot of votes they still have to count, and some may not even be actual counted as votes due to reasons, legal voting, because there's a couple of votes that didn't have IDs and stuff like that, so they're going to probably throw them out. But it looks like he's won it so far.
That's a big county. I mean, it's got Knoxville in it, and just because Knoxville's got their own mayor, they're still in the county, so all the people in Knoxville are voting in this election. You were the one who said that you don't vote because you don't think your vote counts, right?
Yeah. Well, I said in big elections, president elections, that my vote doesn't count. Electoral college picks the president. They can technically vote for whoever they want to, no matter who we pick. Evidence of multiple elections in our past. But in local elections, I don't really normally vote a lot. I think I voted maybe in the last 3 years. There's just no candidate that I felt the need to get behind that ever swayed me in my county. So I just haven't voted because neither one seemed good to me in my counties that I could vote for. So,
all right. So, but if you were in Knoxville, you knew who you'd vote for.
I would too.
Oh,
There's no doubt
I'm a
about
big
that.
Ron Paul guy myself, so definitely I'm hopping on the Kane bandwagon, not just being a WWE fan.
Hey, remember, people didn't think that when Ronald Reagan ran, they were like, "Really, Ronald Reagan? He's a movie star," and he became governor, and then he became president. And Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor, and Jesse became. It's just I think some of the things people think is like, the wrestlers, they're not that bright. No. That's nothing to do with
smart. Very smart.
They're just a lot stronger than we are, and we're jealous, and that's why we say that.
Exactly. Yeah, they can all beat us up. Yeah.
Yeah, I wished I looked like that too.
Well, and people know Trump is a TV star. I don't think that very many people knew of him as a real estate typhoon.
Yeah. They see it that when you see somebody famous and you see their face, whether it's good or bad, it sticks with you.
Yeah,
it sticks with.
During the Reagan administration, the wise guy disc jockey and wise guy newsman at the radio station in Chicago that I listened to, whenever the newsman referred to Reagan, he would call him the acting president.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yep. Which is okay. There's a little propagation delay here between me and Durham. So, are we worried about that that stardom, because more and more celebrities are thinking, if Trump could do it, I can do it, and I should.
Kanye.
Yeah, we worried about that.
And The Rock, another wrestler.
But that's the thing, right? Is when the whole point of winning president is about how much money they can pump into it and how much they get seen and all that. So when you're a celebrity and people see you, go, I love this person, and if they have some politics you agree, because celebrities tend to be Democrats, but you're like, well, I would agree with them, and then poof, you will love to vote for that celebrity more than you would somebody with 100 years experience, literally,
and no charisma.
Charisma. People like, no, I don't want to vote for them. I want to vote for people I know, because I know this is a real person. I know this is a person who does these things.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope behind anybody like that, they have a staff that has real political experience and knows how to run things, but Trump doesn't. I just knocked Regis off the camera there. Trump doesn't apparently listen to his staff. Now, whether you like what he does or don't like what he does, he's not listening to his staff, or apparently he's not. It could all be a giant charade, and they really got an amazing strategy, and all of this is planned. And I'm kind of afraid that's what's really happening. But
I will tell you, I followed Trump for a long time before the election, and as I got close to the election down here at least near Charlotte, you could see it was becoming Trump land really quick. I was seeing more signs as it got close to the election. I'm like, wow. But here's what Trump is. Trump wins in what he does. Like, well, sure, he had bankrupt here, he did this. Well, yeah, you're going to lose too. But he's all focused on that winning and doing that. And so he wants to make sure he's got that attention. So that's the question is, while he's doing that, and he's been doing that and making money, does he have other things going on in the background that are actually having an effect and doing something? Well, we can't tell because we're distracted by what's in front of us.
And what the media shows you. Exactly. Because every media has their own agenda. They'll show you what they believe in and what they want to show you. That's why you get different reports out of every different media.
Well, I was going to say that we're not all following the same thing, because there's so much variety, so many. Unless they're all colluding and saying, okay, you're going to do the right wing stuff and you're going to do the left wing stuff. I don't think that's happening out there.
This Kanye Trump thing, I think, is extremely important in the fact of both of them suffer from kind of the same thing. Is both of them say what's on their mind, but it's not always the correct words, and I think that's what we were saying earlier, right?
Earlier, did you see what he said about the slaves? It was choice. I think he used the word
but the thing
wrong wording there.
Exactly, and Trump's the same way. Trump will say something like, "Well, that sounded horrible." It's like, well, yeah, but he's just spitting words out of his mouth, and he's just not thinking of it. Just like Kanye, they don't necessarily think through it, but they may have a good idea back there. Yeah. Because after Kanye explained, you're like, oh, that's great. But the way you said it was horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely horrible. But we get what you mean now. I'm fine with that. But the people will judge you by how you said it that first time.
Yeah. Well, Trump gets defined by people who want to interpret what he's saying. But as I listen to what he's really saying, my most generous interpretation of many of the things that he says is still not very positive.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen a lot of good things happen, but the idea is I think the president needs many years for us to really see that effect. And unfortunately, it'll be after because when he wins re-election, I'm sure he probably will, after his 8th year, then we'll see if what he did was worthwhile. It's going to take that long before you see
That's
things.
a problem with the 8-year system, in my opinion. When you're going back and forth between two different parties, there's not enough. 8 years is not enough time, in my opinion, to actually make changes, because the first 4 years you're really overthrowing basically what the other party did. If you don't have the same succession of party going on, which we'll never have for a long time, we're always going to be bouncing back and forth, it seems like. So you don't have that amount of time, and 8 years is not enough really, because 4 years you're changing, 4 years you're just trying to get to implementing. You don't even get to implement all the things you want to implement because it takes so long for everybody to vote on it.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And in that first 4 years, they're also running for re-election.
Yeah.
To try to get the next 4. And it's like, I think it was in the Southern Constitution back in the Civil War times, they wanted the president to have a 12-year term or something like that. It might have been once, but they wanted to have just a one-term president, and it might have been a 6-year term for one president, but just to give them that time to focus on stuff, not have to worry about competing and just going on. But yeah, that's the problem. Is the first 4? Yeah, it's a fight. And then if the president changes in 4 years,
back to square one. Yep.
It's how we be political, and we're not being rude or judgmental in any of it. So it's nice.
Yeah, we're at the political show I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, just when I see people though say, F Trump, and I'm not going to say that I don't mind swearing, but I just think that's not helpful. That's not helpful at all.
I think it's crapped on more than it's worth, because a lot of people don't really know what's going on, and they just want to judge him because he was a celebrity with a TV show and everything, and now he's president, and we don't like him because some of the things he says and everything, and everybody just hates on him, and they don't really give him a chance. Same thing with Obama. Same thing with a lot of presidents. No one gives presidents a chance anymore.
Yeah, if they hate him, they hate him.
Yeah, we want instant change. If we don't get instant change, we don't want you. Out of it. Let's get a new president in.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, for all of his campaign and everything he's said since, I've listened to it carefully, and the aggregate is not anywhere close to something I would like to see happening. What I'm calling them these days is the divided states of America, because there's a lot of people that think the way I do, and there's a lot of people who don't. And
exactly.
I don't know that there's much gray space in between.
George Washington, I've talked about this in my show many times, George Washington's farewell address, somebody pointed to me that years ago, and it's a brilliant thing to read because that's back in the 1700s and something. I'm not a historian, I don't know the dates, but he actually talks about how this party system, these two parties, will only be eventually they'll just fight each other. It won't be about the government or by the people. It's just, I hate you, you hate me. And George Washington saw that all that time ago.
It took 200 years to get there.
Yeah, and now he's exactly correct.
Yeah. And that's actually been going on since about back then.
Exactly.
We look at what's going on now and think, wow, this is unique. This is our unicorn. This has never happened before. And it's all happened before. Nothing's that unique. I get a couple more minutes to spin, and the next and final topic will be Bill Cosby, and then I wanted to add in Tom Brokaw because they're both kind of trodden the same ground. Either of you guys old Cosby fans?
Of course.
Yes. Oh, of course, yeah.
Hey.
Put him pop.
Yeah.
You want to put him pop?
I mean, I think everybody was a fan. There's no doubt about that. But I think there's a thing. We have 3 white guys talking about this. This is really bizarre. From a white man's point of view, it's completely different. But I think that the whole thing comes from the fact of life was very different. Back in the 70s. I always like to say that. And I'm not saying this is right, and I'm going to start, you got to be careful, right? I'm going to start by saying this is not right. But if you went back to the 70s, it was known that higher celebrities were having sex with women for them to get a job. That stuff was happening. That was
still
known to
today.
happen. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is people thought it was just back then, and life was different then. Well, it wasn't right then either. Everybody knew what the casting couch was. And so just to find out that people have been doing that, I don't find it that shocking, but the problem is once you get away with it, it gets worse and worse, and then it's just horrible. So, but Cosby's wife's still defending him and saying it's not true. But I'm like, but Cosby's actually admitted it.
He kind of admitted some things, but he didn't admit all the things. He admitted what he knew he had to admit. But if you really look at it, they're all allegations, and it's gotten to the point now where, in America, sadly, you're guilty until proven innocent. No matter what comes out. We've had it with, just the Me Too stuff and all the rape allegations that's been coming out and sexual harassment. Danny Masterson got kicked off the ranch, and it turned out not to be true. Enzo Amore got fired from the WWE, and it turned out not to be true. And so
I'm not familiar with either of those stories. How did they turn out not to be true? What was the allegation and what was the result?
Danny Masterson was about 20 years of stuff. Honestly, it dated back a long time. Like when he was on, I believe, before that 70s show and way when he was younger. And then it's all hearsay, and there was no proof to it at all. It was just an allegation. And the Enzo thing was similar, but the girl said she was actually a big drug user. Actually did tweet videos about it, using drugs and talking about drugs and stuff. And she was actually hanging out, but her friends even came out afterwards and said that, this is what happened. I've got text of the stuff that happened. He did not sexually assault her. It was completely consensual. But he mainly lost his job when it came out. And then all the charges, of course, there's no charges ever brought up at all. They stopped continuing both cases now. I think Danny Mastern's actually off the hook as well. They dropped all the cases with him as well, but he still got fired from the ranch.
Yeah,
Enzo got fired as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is a problem with being found guilty before proven innocent. I think that America's been like that a lot. But I definitely would like to see people. Somebody
mentioned to me that the only place where innocent until proven guilty is in effect is in court. That is not a law that affects the media or public discourse.
No doubt about that. But I mean, when you look back, I mean, there's definitely been a male-dominated society, been hiding a lot of stuff, and so I think, like you said, all that's built up, and now an accusation does kill somebody, and it's like, no, let's let it go through, and let's be sure, and then say yes, we can say sure. But actually, it makes me think of Mike Tyson. Back in the day, because I lived in Indiana back in the Mike Tyson days when he went through he was found guilty of rape, right? He brought a girl up to his hotel room, and she didn't realize it was for sex. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're a girl and I invite you to my hotel room, it's for sex. I'm just saying. It's a hotel room.
Yeah. Put two and two together.
Yeah, but of course he's massively big and he can overpower anyone. But he went through that, and he went through the rape, and he went through jail, and he went to prison. But he comes out, and now people like him again. He paid his debt, and he moved on. I don't know if that'll be true anymore.
Well, here's the thing with Crosby. How can you prove something that was 15, 20 years ago? It's all hearsay.
You just have how can you prove anything?
They did this.
How can you prove anything in almost any rape allegation case?
In some rape cases, you can actually prove it by having the girls actually go straight forward, straight to the hospital to get the rape, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you can prove they had sex, but can you prove it was consensual or not?
Exactly. How can you prove it?
Well, I will tell you, men are dicks. There's no doubt about that. Men have been taught to be aggressive.
Women can rape men too,
and that's fine. I have an appointment for that. If you would like to do that. I'm here. But in society, men do use their power. Definitely use power against. So that's really what I like to think these are. It's one thing about having non-consensual sex. That's one thing. But when you're using power over somebody, I can control your job. That's different right there. If somebody's saying, well, in order to do your job, you have to have sex with me. Okay, now that's this whole power struggle. That's really bad. That's why I think that
adds an element to it. But any non-consensual, any forced sex is a terrible thing. And
yes.
So these days, maybe women have an advantage in they are starting to be believed. Because I think we got a pretty long history of they weren't believed at all.
Yeah, because it was men in the system, right? So you had to prove to police men and judge men that the woman did this, and the men are like, "Oh, come on,"
you can't prove it.
Yeah. I like to go back to the Future. That's one of my favorite movies, Back to the Future. If you look at Biff is very aggressive and possessive, and the Back to the Future movie culminates in an attempted rape inside the car. I mean, that's what we're seeing. Biff is going to rape her, and we're all like, "Oh," but that's horrible. But I think it just shows some things that there are men like that. He's like, "I love you, Lorraine. I won't take no for an answer." Things like that. Whoa. I mean, calm down.
Yeah.
Biff's a perfect example of that kind of person.
Unfortunately, I never saw that movie. I'm not sure why.
Really?
But never seen Back.
I've never seen Back to the Future.
I see the original one.
Well,
it was in the original. Yeah, I don't
Or
remember.
Marty's got to go to the school, and he's got to go.
Yeah. One of the great things about my brain is that it drops bits left and right.
That's
and
good.
so
That's
I can
usually not about movies.
Yeah, and I can watch a movie over again and see it again for the for first time.
Oh, that's good. That's actually
It's very entertaining. Get my money's worth out of it again. Yeah. So I don't remember that. But so we live in an era now where women may are being believed when they shouldn't be, but most of the time I think they probably have a good case, and they've never had that advantage before. Will some women take advantage of it? Maybe. Will men always say that's what's going on? Yes. So
maybe the society changes and it becomes a female-dominated society for a while, and the whole thing just spins. So it's believe the woman is the current battle cry. Give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe body cams will eventually solve this. I don't know. If they get small enough and really can get hidden. Goodbye privacy for all of us.
Yeah.
Yep. So these days, it's a conundrum. I'm more inclined to believe a woman, and if they've got anything that they can put together that gives them some backup, but it's all going to be hearsay. It's all going to be stories, because real proof is going to be hard to come by.
Yeah, and both sides can provide a very convincing story. The man will always provide a convincing story that it was one way. The woman will provide a convincing story, and you're asking a jury to choose which one is true. Is it who was more convincing?
Yeah.
You ask that question. It's like, well, that's horrible that that's what it has to come down to, is who was the better presenter.
And so if you're going to say, well, what can we do about that? If we say things like, well, women stop getting drunk and going to parties, or going to parties and getting drunk. Is that fair?
No, that is definitely not fair, because I need drunk women because they like me.
That's another thing.
Start looking better and better.
Do you get drunk around people you don't trust?
As a man, sure. I don't anymore, because I'm an alcoholic and I stopped.
No. If I'll tell you something right now, I remember, you go back to college days, if you and your men friends got drunk and you passed out, what happened to you is your own fault, but it's not pretty. You're going to end up with pictures of things and stuff that, I've
seen that in movies. I've never seen that in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoes on. If you fall asleep with your shoes on, you're free game.
Exactly.
But another point to prove with the women.
I never want to meet you guys in person, okay?
If a drunk girl can't consent,
and
can he really consent at the same time?
Actually, nobody can. I mean, if you're drunk, you really can't.
So can you really claim rape on that? Because no one can technically consent if you're both technically drunk.
It's both their damn faults, but what you're going to find out is somebody was pretending to be drunk so they could use that excuse.
Well,
exactly. That's going to be the problem.
So here's the bottom line that I think I can reach. I don't want to hear any rationalizing from men. I don't want to hear any.
That's fair. That's
man up. Man up. Take responsibility for your action. And if you've got to rationalize your behavior, then you are wrong.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yep. Fair enough.
I just like them.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I don't have
that's
to worry
a good way
about.
To save the show, by the way. That was a great way.
That's a great way.
Save where we're going, because
But
it's just like we said earlier. You don't mean anything bad, but eventually you're like, did I say that? Did that sound bad? Yeah, it sounded bad. I apologize for actually sounding bad, because you summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, I feel bad now. I was just trying to point out facts and stuff and like.
But I think the thing is, it is, but it's that whole thought process of how people thought about it, how it is. And so what's the solution? And, the solution is, you just, no making excuses for things.
And now I'm a bully.
No, that's good.
No.
That's perfect. That cleaned us up good.
Yep.
All right. Time to go. Regis Philbin.
He was my hero. That's where that name comes from.
Okay. I was going to ask, is that where it happened? Okay. Let's see. I still got the titles here. There's one, Regis Jack. Where'd the Jack come from?
Oh, that's actually my name. So it's short for Jackson. So that Jack comes from there.
All right. So, and you have the dystopia.
Distracted euphoria.
Distracted euphoria.
I refer to myself as a distracted philosopher, or the philacted the flack to diss for if I'm drunk. So it's
depends on
just
how
way,
long,
so.
how long the show has been going on. How do
Exactly.
people find that? What's the?
Actually, I like to say you can find it easy by doing regisjack.com, or you can do distractedphilosopher.com, distractedeuphoria.com, or my favorite URL that I own, probeofuranus.com. Pronounce it how you like.
Spell it. I have discovered that because my spelling is really bad, I just dictate things into the Google, and it finds things for me.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. You look up Regis Jack, you'll find me everywhere because I'm Regis Jack on Twitter, on Instagram, on pretty much everything. So
Yeah, I think I've heard of you before.
that's scary.
I've never heard of you before. All right. And over here, we got Superman, Clark Kent, and his alter ego, Lee Kal-El Clark. And should
now
people
you've
even bother
ruined
trying
everything.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Everything now. You're not supposed to tell people I'm Superman.
Oh.
You ruin everything.
Oh, because
You look
that's
like
a secret identity.
No, he's not
It
Superman.
is.
Look at him. He
Yeah,
doesn't even
it's
look
secret.
like him with those glasses and everything. Doesn't even look like him.
Right. Yeah. It's a perfect disguise.
Yeah.
Who ever
Yeah,
thought putting on a
perfect.
pair of glasses would be a perfect disguise, especially for someone who is built like a rock?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, I just lump my
Who would've
shoulders a little
thought?
bit and you can't tell anymore. And,
Yeah, it's-
and I act puny.
Exactly.
But
the Rock,
and I don't have
the
that.
Rock could make a good job at that.
And I comb the little curl of hair that drops down, so it's you don't
yeah.
see that.
I comb it back so you don't see it.
It's a perfect disguise.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Should people even bother trying to find you right now?
Oh yes, yeah, they can listen to a lot of our old shows. Actually, one of the big things that we've got going recently is like a lot of people seem to flock into our show that didn't listen to it before and come in and listen to a lot of old shows lately. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, all the podcast areas out there that you can get podcasts. Rockin' the Carolinas is what you want to search for. We're on Twitter.
ROCKIN.
Yes, no G, because we're gangster like that. No G. Yep, gangster. You can find us on Twitter as well. I think the Twitter is Rockin' Carolinas. I don't run that. My co-host and
He's frozen again. We can talk about him. You can't tell now.
There you go.
And he
co-owner does.
Okay,
There it goes.
it all caught up
my
in 2
bottle.
seconds. You
I threw
froze.
my bottle at the screen.
Can you tell when you're freezing? I guess you can tell because you're seeing it freeze on your return feed.
not until you say something, then I catch I'm freezing.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah.
We'll say it quicker.
But
All right.
we got some big things going in the future. You can listen to old shows right now. We're not going to have another new show. Probably we got actually one lined up before the draft in June. We're going to have a show for the draft for the Hurricanes, and then we're not going to have another show until the start of the season. But we're going to launch a whole new website. It's going to be Rockin' the Carolinas. The URL's already bought everything, so you won't be able to miss it. But it's going to be probably until about August, September till we get like full steam again.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, rest up. And rest up and then hit the ground running.
Definitely.
When what will your first sport be? Football?
No.
Hockey?
Hockey.
Curling.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, curling.
My
I'm
wife
Yeah, we're
my
gonna do
wife
curling.
likes watching curling in the
Yes.
Olympics.
Yes, curling is.
It really is. It really is. It's really good. I always made fun of it, and then I watched it and went, no, this is interesting. I do. I get into it.
I don't believe that the guy's sweeping. I don't think that has any effect at all.
So awesome. I love it. Yes, it's so awesome.
Pretty sure no effect.
It does. And I froze again.
This is me, Gary Pierce, and your dog is. My cat
Dogs are
left.
out.
My cat left.
Dogs are out, and I need a bathroom break.
Guess my cat. Yeah, that's pretty much what does dictate the end of the program is having to go pee. There he is. He's cutie. So
They're barking loud. Scanner.
cool. So I don't know if you can turn your mic back on because it's so noisy back behind you. But do you remember how the show ends? Do you remember how we ended that that show?
Yes,
You
Yes.
okay? So let me have you lead it off. And now with radio,
I don't remember that well. I don't remember it that well. I remember what it was, but I don't remember it that well. I don't remember it
so it's
verbatim.
a 3-word ending. And with my radio show, a lot of the people could get it after the first 2 words. They would get the last word. We're going to put you on the spot here, Regis, and see if you can get the word. I will say the first word. Lee, you'll remember what the second word is.
I think so.
if you don't, I'll give you a clue. It's an easy word. It's a conjunction. He's thinking, I think I learned that back in junior high. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Regis can get the last word. This is the Triangle Talk Show. Episode 4 is in the can. Over.
And
Out.
See?
yeah.
Piece of pie.
Easy.
Easy peasy. Okay, turning off the internet machines here. YouTube, automatic YouTube goes off